But that takes me to where they are now, because all of a sudden Dereck Lively's there, right? And now Dereck Lively changes things because he gives you that Clint Capella rim running screener vertical option for Luka on offense to play pick and roll, which is exactly what he wants, and he fills the defensive need.
I think team construction is both it's both a positive and a negative for the Mavericks right now, because we look at the guys that are like Grant Williams is almost the perfect kind of forward to put next to Luka Doncic, right? That's the kind of guy that's really happy to get physical, play some good defense. He's mixed in some good creation a little bit. Like, he's not like going to create much, but he's able to dribble in and do a couple of things this year. Josh Green, fantastic defensive player. Also, I think his passing is much more developed than Grant Williams, but this is another guy that can take advantage of being wide open in the corner. And then, like you said, Dereck Lively, but then also Dwight Powell. Both of these guys are just like terrific rim runners that are ready to just throw down lobs at any time.
Well, I mean, they played the Clippers. The Mavs played the Clippers the other day, and they had this ridiculous 35-4 run in the middle of the first half. You did not mishear me, by the way. They went on a 35-4 run. I don't even remember over what time frame. It was like 7 or 8 minutes in the heart of the first half, between like the first and the second quarter. So on one hand, you have the Dallas offense, which I'll talk about in a second, but on the other hand, you had the Clippers defense only scoring 4 points, which the Clippers offense only scoring 4 points, which is a testament to the Mavs defense and the improvement of the Mavs defense that we've talked about. And it's also some of the insanity happening with the Clippers that we'll get to at another point in time. But Cody, I thought that 35-4 run was a real interesting case study or microcosm, if we could count it against the Clippers. I was thinking as I was watching this, I was like, does this count? Because it's against the Clippers. But what you saw there wasn't simply Dallas going, give Luka the ball, send the big man up to set a screen, spread the court, and everybody remains still, right? It's a little bit more fluid and dynamic, because Luka's in better shape this year to start the season. He looks good physically. We'll talk about the shot in a second, but he looks good physically. So you can run actions where you involve 3 players. You have the big man with the basketball. Luka goes away and gets a screen, and then Luka can be on the move getting that handoff with another screener. Those actions are tricky for defenses sometimes to understand who's going to switch and who's going to guard where. Luka can pass out of those actions, and he is incredibly dangerous as a passer, obviously. Kyrie Irving can be involved in those actions. Kyrie Irving can pass as maybe an extra passer out of those actions, and they can shoot out of those actions. And of course, when you have Kyrie Irving, who's a great shooter, Luka's shot's much better. And then of course you can just get into the traditional pick and roll stuff. And so some of that, where you're setting screens for Kyrie Irving, you're setting screens for Tim Hardaway, and you're getting him the ball on the move. Luka's moving a little bit more, combined with all the different ways the Mavs can use Luka on offense in the pick and roll game. And he just started to like, okay, you're going to play this one coverage. You're going to switch. I'm going to give Ivica Zubac a step back 3. You're going to play this other coverage. You're going to double me. Shoot it over to Kyrie Irving. He's going to be wide open for a 3 because you put 2 on me. We're going to run pick and roll. You're going to come down the lane. You're going to send that extra help defender over. Bam. I'm going to skip it over to the corner for someone who's got a wide open 3, or they can attack off a closeout or whatever. He just started to build up the rhythm of how I'm going to systematically take your defense apart based on not a single stationary pick and roll set, but staggered screens, moving into handoffs, all this other stuff. And then before you know it, then he's no-looking Kawhi Leonard. There's this one play that just blew my brains out. Kawhi Leonard slides over to take away the roll man. So they bring 3 defenders to stop 2. Luka is turning the corner in this action, picks up the dribble like he's going to throw it out to the man that Kawhi Leonard just left on the wing, and before Kawhi even knows he's going to commit to the wing, throws it to the roller anyway that Kawhi is standing in front of. Just brilliant basketball. So all of that to me makes me think, yeah, the offense is still not really going to be a huge problem, even though it does have this sort of maybe passé construction to it.
So I guess I want to go back and revise a little bit what I was saying, because I didn't mean to imply that, like, hey, we're going to give Luka the ball up top and we're going to run some pick and rolls, because it is a little bit more complicated than that. However, I do feel like there's a couple of sorts of set plays that I see them run over and over, and just because of Luka's brilliance and just because of Kyrie's, I think he's pretty unstoppable. I don't want to say unstoppable, but he's pretty incredible on a lot of those second side actions when people are scrambling. Because like I said, when he gets into his handling bag, like, he's pretty difficult to stay in front of, especially when you're trying to recover to him. But like, you know, the Mavericks have been going with this a little bit of a Spain action, a Spain pick and roll action, and they're using Tim Hardaway Jr. as the guy that's the second screener, the guy that's screening the screener. So you have this action where you have one guy that's diving to the rim, somebody like maybe Dereck Lively, right? And then you have Tim Hardaway Jr. popping out, okay? And they kind of change up the angle of these screens depending on exactly how the defense is reacting to it. But when Tim Hardaway Jr. pops out, like, he is shooting, I don't know what he's shooting off the top of my head, but his three-point percentage has to be off the charts right now, especially on wide open looks this season. And so you have like these, not just like, here's gravity from one guy sitting here and here's gravity of another guy sitting near the rim. There's like multiple pulls of guys moving in these opposite directions. And then you have Luka Doncic moving towards the rim from this angle, and you just have to make all of these decisions at one time. And I feel like I see the Mavericks go to that kind of set like over and over. And just because Luka is so brilliant and Dereck Lively's a great rim finisher and Tim Hardaway Jr. can shoot those threes, they get good looks out of it. And they do these kinds of things. Like you said, the stagger screens. They put Tim Hardaway Jr. in a lot of these stagger screens because, again, he's able to pop out. Another one of these bigs like Powell also can roll to the rim. You have these dueling gravities, right? But it's still one of those things where it's like, I see these sets a lot. And I feel like if we came down to it in a playoff setting, I don't know, maybe there's nothing you can really do against like the complete brilliance of Luka Doncic, but it still feels a little bit more scripted and singular compared to other guys. Like if you look at the time of possession numbers that you have in the thinkingbasketball.net database, like the second highest time of possession is Jalen Brunson in the league at 47%. And there's only like 6 guys that have over 40% of time of possession. Luka Doncic is at 49%. Like, he is knocking on the door of having the ball 50% of the time. And I just feel like when you have someone having the ball that much, that gets a little bit easier to scheme for.
Yeah, but I think this also gets us to the Luka of the whole situation, which is very interesting. And by the way, Tim Hardaway is actually only at 38%. I say, quote unquote, only at 38% this year, because Kyrie Irving's at 40%, Josh Green is at 40%, Grant Williams is at 50%. The Mavs lead the league in threes. They've made 175 threes in 10 games. I'm not a math major, but I think that's about 17 and a half a game. And they're shooting 40% as a team. And when, you know, Cody just had an incredible reaction to that, because I get the same way. When I see a team shooting 40%, I get all warm and fuzzy thinking about Steve Nash and the 7-second Suns. And it's not to make a comparison here. We just said this team was slower. But if you actually get great shots and you have good enough shooters around you, and Luka himself has improved his shot, then I'm not saying in the playoffs it'll be as easy. I think your point is something I agree with right now in terms of adjustments in the postseason, taking away some of these actions. But I'd certainly in the regular season, it's sustainable. And in the playoffs, even if you take it from a 10 down to an 8, I still think the offense is really good. Thanks for listening. You can find the full episode of this Thinking Basketball podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever you enjoy podcasts.